In today's news, Thailand reports 4 patients infected with the new BA2.2 Omicron subvariant. A freshman student dies from university hazing, and Bangkok loosens its rules on alcohol sales. All this is coming up in today's program. You're watching Thailand News Today, bringing you the latest top stories in Thailand and beyond. And in our first story, the Public Health Ministry says there is no cause for concern after the BA2.2 Omicron subvariant was reported in 4 COVID patients in the kingdom. According to a report, the patients are 3 Thai nationals and a foreigner. The BA2.2 subvariant was first discovered in Hong Kong, which is battling its worst COVID wave since the start of the pandemic and currently has the world's highest death rate, although most of the deaths are occurring in the elderly population and the unvaccinated. Here in Thailand, Supakit Sirilak from the Department of Medical Sciences says the vast majority of infections are still the Omicron BA2 subvariant. He adds that 99.7% of over 2,000 samples sent for genomic sequencing are of the Omicron variant. Cases of the BA2 subvariant have increased from 52 to 68%, while BA1 makes up 32% of infections. In a new development, 4 cases are thought to be the new BA2.2 subvariant first reported in Hong Kong. Supakit says the information has been sent to the Global Initiative on Sharing Avian Influenza Data, which has yet to confirm the strain as a new variant. He adds that all 4 patients had mild symptoms and they have since made a full recovery. As yet, he says there is no cause for concern. Supakit was quoted saying, "There is no need to panic as there are no worrying signs. But we have to be vigilant and answer 3 questions. Does it spread more quickly? Will it cause more deaths? And can it evade our efforts to boost immunity?" Supakit says it's too early to say if BA2.2 is behind the increase in deaths in Hong Kong. He points out that with a huge surge in infections, it's likely there will be more fatalities due to the pressure on the healthcare system. The Omicron strain is highly transmissible, he says, so when the public health system is unable to cope with the surge, it may result in more deaths. The Deputy Director General of the Department of Medical Services agrees. He points out that other factors need to be considered when looking at the situation in Hong Kong, such as its low vaccination rate and the fact that deaths are primarily in the unvaccinated and the elderly. A freshman university student died during a hazing incident where he was reportedly beaten by students and forced to drink khao, a Thai distilled spirit. The 19-year-old was punched in the stomach and face. At one point, he became unconscious. He then died on the way to the hospital. The activist group Anti-SOTUS, which is against the hazing culture at Thai universities, posted information on the freshman's death on its Facebook page, saying the first-year student, Pasayot Chonpakdi, who goes by the nickname Prem, was attacked by senior students in the Rashmangala University of Technology, Isan, in Nakhon Ratchasima province. The group says they spoke with Prem's friends, who say more than 30 second-year students took Prem and other first-year students with them to play football at a nearby rice field. They then forced the students to line up, and the older students attacked the first-year students. So far, 6 students have confessed to beating Prem to death, according to Thai media. Prem was punched on the stomach and face. At one point, Prem lost consciousness and a student tried to administer CPR to revive him. He was sent to Fort Suranari Hospital, which was over 20 kilometers away, but he died on the way. From an initial examination, the doctor found that Prem was also infected with COVID and the virus had affected his lungs. The officers from the Mueang Korat police station and the university have already received the report on the case.
You love the Thaiger. Now subscribe to our new YouTube lifestyle channel, Bounce.
Thailand's food, travel, challenges, and just about anything that isn't news. Only on Bounce. Link in the description below.
Bangkok is loosening its rules on alcohol sales. Starting today, shopping centers and event venues can serve alcoholic beverages until 11 p.m. According to a document signed yesterday by Bangkok Governor Aswin Kwanmueang, the venues serving alcohol will also need to be certified through safety and health standards set by the Thai government to prevent the spread of COVID-19. According to the document, alcohol can be served at conferences and seminars at hotels, conference venues, shopping centers, community markets, and banquet halls. The number of participants at the events is limited to no more than 1,000 people. For events with more than 1,000 attendees, organizers need to ask permission from the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration's Health Department before holding the event. However, bars and entertainment venues are still ordered to remain closed unless they receive permission to operate as restaurants. The governor of Bangkok has pledged to end the flooding that has plagued the capital each year and says he has the tools to do it. Aswin Kwanmueang says the construction of another 2 underground water tanks, in addition to 2 that have been completed, will be done within the next 2 years. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration boss says the project, which has been running since 2018, will put an end to the flood misery in the capital. With 2 underground retention tanks built, work has now begun on another 2. Together, the 4 tanks will have the capacity to hold the runoff from up to 100 millimeters of rain every day. The tanks will help 4 areas of the capital that are particularly prone to flooding. On Monday, Aswin presided over an opening ceremony for 2 tanks in Rashawipa and Sinakarin. Aswin says the tanks have the capacity to hold 10,000 cubic meters of water, and another 2 tanks are under construction. The third will have the capacity to hold 1,000 cubic meters of water and will be positioned under the Bangkok roundabout. The 4th tank can hold 1,200 cubic meters and is being built under Asok Dindang Road, close to Soi Sutipona 2. An official from the Tourism Authority of Thailand's Phuket office says that most Russian and Ukrainian tourists on this southern island appear to be coping. Nantasiri Narasiri says there have not been many calls to a hotline set up specifically to help tourists stranded by canceled flights or facing financial problems as a result of sanctions on Russia. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has led to global condemnation and international sanctions on Russian airlines and the suspension of payment systems and services such as Visa and MasterCard. However, according to a report, Nantasiri says only around 15 Russian tourists have contacted the TAT's helpline since it had launched last Wednesday. The call center, set up to help both Russian and Ukrainian tourists, can be reached on 093-937-2086 and 094-819-1124. The Bangkok Post reports that the lines are manned by Russian speakers and are open from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. According to Nantasiri, a number of Russian tourists say they have been in touch with their embassy and are waiting for officials to arrange repatriation flights. They have reported no payment problems, saying they have enough funds for their stay. There was no information on Ukrainian tourists. Meanwhile, local tourism operators say they're no longer seeing Russian tourists on Phuket beaches. Prior to the war on Ukraine, Russians accounted for up to 80% of tourists on the island's beaches. Since the start of the war, that number has plummeted to around just 5%. Elephant parks and sanctuaries relying on foreign tourists for an income and funds to feed the animals have been hit hard during the pandemic. One elephant park in Chiang Mai is now up for sale due to the drastic drop in the number of visitors over the past 2 years. The owner says she's been unable to afford the 2 million baht per month needed to care for her camp's more than 40 elephants and pay the staff. The owner of the Matang Elephant Camp in Chiang Mai made the announcement on Sunday, which was National Elephant Day. The observance aims to raise awareness about the conservation of Thai elephants and in remembrance of the day the Royal Forest Department designated the white elephant as Thailand's national animal. While elephant camps and sanctuaries across Thailand celebrated with fruit buffets for the animals, Matang Elephant Camp had to say goodbye to their elephants. Wasana Tongsuk, who has been running the camp for 28 years, says she spent all of her savings and has not had support from the state during the pandemic. Wasana says she has yet to set a price for her 160,000 square meter park and dozens of elephants, but she says one qualification is that the buyer must be an elephant lover. She says the money is not important, but the elephants' lives are. If she's unable to sell the park, Wasana says she will continue taking care of the elephants and is willing to sell her assets, like her house and car, to be able to afford care for the elephants. And that's all for our report. Thailand News Today will be back tomorrow. Meanwhile, you're not up to date on the Thaiger.